I think a lot of operators think this vendor should be lucky that they're doing business with me. Or this vendor, it's okay for me to pay them late. It's okay that the fact that it's been 200 days and I haven't paid them yet, but he shouldn't call me and ask me for money. He should appreciate that I'm giving him the business.
None of your business, Ushy. None of your business, Michael.
It's the None of Your Business podcast, hosted by Michael and Ushy.
Welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of the None of Your Business podcast, sponsored by Prime Source. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, and do all that good stuff, especially giving us some feedback so we can continuously make this a better listening experience for you all. Today, we are joined by a co-host that is not only a friend, but also a business partner. His name is Yissy, a.k.a. Yisrael, a.k.a. Reb Yissy Cherns. Yissy Cherns and I have known each other for a long time, like you'll find out in a few minutes. And he is the propco of many, many opcos, which means that he owns the property and he leases out his buildings to many people in the assisted living home industry, in the drug rehab industry. But more importantly than him making partnerships, I think, Ushy, the reason why God has been so good to him, if I may, is because him and his wife dedicated their life to making partnerships between two people who last a long, long time. I'm curious, have you ever made a shidduch?
Oh my God, I have not made a shidduch. However, I did one time try, and my wife actually kept telling me, stop it, what are you getting involved in? What do you know about making matches between people? There are professionals, leave it to the professionals. And I'm like, no, I got this. How hard could it be? How hard could it be putting a guy and a girl together, setting them up on a date, then having to listen to them afterwards about what they thought, and then setting up the next date.
Right? Sounds like fun.
It sounds like fun. Yeah, this is great. It's like a live reality show. So I did it. What a nightmare it turned out to be. It was a disaster.
Why?
It was so complex. It was so hard. Turned out that it wasn't just about the guy and the girl. It was about their appearance, and they wanted to each have a conversation with me. They had a problem with something on the other side, that they're like, one of them actually accused me of trying to sabotage them.
Oh.
They said, wait a second, I found out about this. Did you know about this thing that you didn't tell us on purpose? Did you deliberately leave this out? No, I had no idea either, And it was just like, I became thrown into the mix. I was like the referee, and I was not calling balls and strikes correctly. Everybody was upset at me. It was a disaster. That's when I realized, my wife was right. Leave it to the professionals.
Well,
they know what they're doing. Leave it to guys like Yissy and his wife.
I don't agree with that so much, because I have to tell you, everyone in the world can make a match. And if you feel it, you should go for it. I don't agree. You failed at that one, you should try again.
What about you failed at that one, Michael? You're talking about people's real lives here.
Yeah.
You can't just go in there and put people together and fail at it.
We're talking about a cup of coffee. We're talking about a dinner. And it could be their entire future together, because your gut is telling you that these two are meant for each other. I'm not.
Yeah, but what if you mess it up? What if you mess it
I'll
up?
tell you, I'm not a matchmaker professionally. I made 4 matches. One of them ended in a divorce. I'm okay with it.
You're 3 for 4.
3 for 4 is not a bad number. I'm still happy and proud of the 3 that went well. It's not up to us. We are the messengers. If you see a guy, you see a girl, and you feel like it's a match, go ahead and make the match. That's my.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I think it's not our arena. I think let's just stay out of it. I think if you think there's a guy and a girl that are meant for each other, and you see it, and you see them together, call a person who actually knows how to run these things, and let them do it.
Call the match.
Give them the idea.
Maker do it.
Yes.
It's actually a very nice idea.
Right.
It's a nice idea. I still won't do that. I'll do it myself. But I like that idea.
Yeah, think about a nursing home operator, right? Think about it just as like a correlation. Sometimes they actually are not the expert in that area. When you run a nursing home, you have to actually be an expert in the restaurant business, because you're running a commercial kitchen. You have to be an expert in scheduling and staffing. You have to be an expert in maintenance and housekeeping. You can't possibly know everything the best. You have to rely on other people who potentially know better than you, right? So don't try to do everything yourself.
I know, but I'm still not going to.
I don't believe in that. Let the next person who knows better than you.
How about I tell you something personally that happened to me recently that is the opposite of what you're saying? My daughter went out with a guy that was totally not for her. And the guy ended up saying, you know what, you're not for me, but I have a good friend of mine in school, and I think he would be perfect for you. What should he have done? Called the matchmaker? No, he gave her the number. And we ended up making that match, and that's who she ended up marrying. How was your week so far?
God, it was a good week, actually. It was a good, interesting week ahead. First of all, I did something very exciting. I actually took my son, my 7-year-old son, to his first Yankee game. I'm a big Yankee fan, as you know. I'm a big baseball fan. I don't just watch the Yankees. I watch all games throughout the season. I'll watch little games here, a little bit there from different teams. In the playoffs, I'll watch every single series.
You're not obsessed, but you follow it like
I follow it very carefully. I look every night at the highlights.
you know what's going
around the league.
I love watching a sports game with you, Ushy.
Yeah.
It is more fun.
Right.
You know the salaries of every one of those players.
Whose contract is up?
Where they're coming, why they need to play well. Oh, that guy's lazy because he has 7 more years left on his contract. It's fun to watch a game with you.
There's a lot of business, by the way, in the sports world as well that you could take away from. You can see how they negotiate and what they do.
Moneyballing.
Yeah, for sure. But I took my son to, and he watches already the Yankee games with me. He already watches it on TV. And I knew that he would have no idea what a real stadium feels like. Sitting in a stadium, it would be his first time, and I wanted to experience that with him. Okay, so I kept pumping him up for a couple of weeks that we're going to go to a Yankee game. Don't worry, we're going to go to a Yankee game. And every other day he asked me, Daddy, when are we going to a Yankee? When is it happening? So finally this week, that time came, and I took him to the game. Not without a little teasing first. On the way to the Yankee Stadium, let me tell you what I did. This is actually very funny. On the way to the stadium, they have these fields outside where, regular baseball fields that people play.
Sure.
So as we were walking from the parking lot to the stadium, I stopped off at one of these fields. And I told Levi, I said, Levi, this is the stadium over here. And I put him over into the field. And I said, so what do you think? Is this what you thought it would be? And obviously, he was very underwhelmed, to say the least.
This is like eating the Halloween candy.
Exactly. Eating your kids' Halloween candy. Yeah. So, but then it was all fine because then I took him to the actual stadium and it was magical. Like his eyes lit up when he saw the field for the first time.
Love it.
And it was a nice experience. So I did that this week.
By the way, I want to tell you, I had a friend that taught me this a few years ago. He said, you don't have to spend hundreds of dollars to go to a game. Spend less, go to more games. And
Interesting. Yeah, I agree with that.
It really helped me a lot because then I could connect with my kids and go to games. And the best outlet for kids and even for adults is sports.
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, baseball is one of those things where you don't need to have amazing seats to see the game.
It's pretty boring, the baseball games.
Well, it depends for who.
Yeah,
Do you know there are some people who come to the games with a book and they score the game? They come to the game and they score. This person struck out.
Why?
Because they're into the game. They want to feel like they're a part of it.
Betting?
No, they're not betting at all. They're nerds. They're baseball nerds. And they just want to be a part of it, and they're scoring the game. You have a lot of those type of people. Then there's some casual fans who come just to hang out. Then there are people coming for business. They're coming, to have a good environment, drink a little bit and talk business. But then there are families that come with their kids, and they make a bonding experience out of it. But I agree with you. I think it's more important to go to more games a year than to spend the money on really, really good seats and to sit up front. Now, in basketball, I would say that get good seats. Get good seats because you really get to experience it better. You feel much more engaged if you have a seat closer to the court.
You know what I did recently, by the way? I bought a very inexpensive seat, and I went to StubHub while I was at the game at the first round or whatever it was the game, and then I saw these 2 seats were still available, and I just went and sat in those 2 seats.
Oh, that's smart. So you looked at where there was empty seats.
Yeah. It didn't work for me a different time, though, because security didn't let me down, but I did that.
Yeah, the very good seats. Security kind of checks your tickets before you go in there.
You said your week was good.
But that was just something very nice I did with my son. But business-wise, I had something very interesting happen to me that doesn't happen very often. It happens throughout the year. But I had a customer who they have 9 assisted living facilities. And they came to me about 6 months ago. And they told me, everything was a mess. It was completely dysfunctional, very disorganized. They were ordering, every facility was doing something else. There was no uniformity going on. There was no centralized, process that all the facilities were following. None of the vendors were streamlined. Quite frankly, they could not tell you what it costed them to run their dietary department, what it costed them to run their medical supply, right? Nothing. They had no idea, and they had no visibility into their spend. So they came to me, as they typically do, for help. Help us get set up, create a purchasing environment for us. So we started the process like we always do. And 6 months later, I'm happy to say, they went live on an ordering platform that we set up for them, a digital ordering platform where all their vendors now are part of that one portal that they log into. They get to see all their vendors. Every single person within the organization has a rule set up of what they're allowed to see, what they're allowed to order. There's order guides loaded. There's formularies loaded. We're talking literally now from a completely dysfunctional system to a well-oiled machine that's very, very meticulous and very carefully designed. And they went live. And the CFO texted me, emailed me a couple of days ago and really complimented me and the team that helped them really make all of this happen and come to fruition. And it was a very gratifying moment. I felt very good about it, because we really, aside from the fact that we did well and we're gonna make money at the end of the day, right? This is all a part of what we do. But more importantly, we helped an organization get their act together and be more efficient. And we saved them a tremendous amount of money and time. And it was a really good feeling that we were appreciated.
By the way, time is the value that people don't take into account enough.
Yeah, it took a lot of time. You know how many people were involved in this project? Do you understand that it wasn't just me and the sales reps? We're talking about from the sales support team. We're talking about our director of operations that was involved constantly, our director of sales support that was involved in this, and within sales support, about 5 individuals that were handling different cases, different vendors. I want to say about 12 to 15 people were involved in this.
Love it.
Over 6 months that had a hand in making all this happen. So this was the week where it all landed. And it was, it was showtime. Wow. And we got a compliment. And they really came out and they said thank you. They were really appreciative.
I love when customers say thank you.
Yeah.
It's so nice. We're a customer, right? Just like we always say, everyone's a salesperson to someone. Everyone's a customer to someone.
Exactly.
So when someone does good to you, just thank them.
Yeah.
Just give them a nice email, a nice thank you. Like, you know what? We appreciate the effort. And that's very valuable. I really like that. And I wish more people did that. Anytime someone helps you, just say thank you. It's a vendor, a service provider.
Yeah.
Don't just say, I think it.
I think a lot of times operators take it for granted with their vendors and what they do for them. I think a lot of operators think, this vendor should be lucky that they're doing business with me. Or, this vendor, it's okay for me to pay them late. It's okay that the fact that it's been 200 days and I haven't paid them yet, but he shouldn't call me and ask me for money. He should appreciate that I'm giving him the business. It's a mentality of a lot of operators. But I don't know if I agree with that.
I think today it's very few operators.
But there are still operators who do that.
I think today you're not surviving if you have that mentality.
You really aren't. And I think that we actually did a real service for them. We really helped their business. We really did. And this operator recognized it and really appreciated it. And he's not saying, well, you guys are now making money because, you're running the purchasing in our buildings. That's not what he said. What he said was, thank you. Thank you for really helping us.
By the way, that's the good that happened this week. I'm curious because you said good. You didn't say great. What frustrated you this week?
I probably gained 5 pounds this week. I'm on the uptick of I was doing very well for a while.
I remember a few months
ago, and I just let loose this week.
Stopped eating pizza, and I'm like, stop it. That's not going to last.
I know. It's impossible. I love pizza too much. I cannot give it up.
That's your one item, right?
Somebody asked me, what's that one item I would bring on a deserted island? I would say pizza.
Yeah.
All the time.
Ice cream, but I'm going to need...
Haagen-Dazs ice cream? Haagen-Dazs?
Haagen-Dazs macadamia brittle. They don't even make it anymore. But it's my wish.
I never heard of that flavor.
So you're frustrated that you gained a few pounds.
Yeah, that's probably one of my frustrations.
Okay. Well, let's learn all of it.
Michael, what about you? How was your week? How was your week? Let me hear. What went on?
Oh, my God. Well, I made a wedding, but,
Oh, yes, of course.
In Israel, and I highly recommend. But then again, it's not so simple that you have both children that want to get married in Israel. But making a wedding in Israel is 10 times nicer and 10 times less expensive.
Less expensive?
Yeah.
How's that possible?
Amazing. Well, first of all, and when you're part of a community of 100, 200 people that have to come to your, celebration, you're paying for everyone to eat, come and celebrate. When you're in a destination, it's more the people that you...
But not everybody's going to come.
No, I understand. But that's another reason why...
So you're only going to have 10% of the people that are coming. So you have less people.
Less people, number one. Number two is they got discounts for making Aliyah to Israel for the boy
Who got
in the
discounts?
army, the couple, right? So the family, we got discounts. And it was on a winery, and it was absolutely stunning. And I would highly recommend, making a wedding in Israel.
I'm very sorry that I missed the wedding.
Okay.
I was not able to
watch
attend.
the live, and
I watched it live. I watched the wedding live. But I'll tell you, Michael, weddings have become so cliche. The weddings, it's all the same. Every time you go to a wedding, it's the same thing over. Just different couples getting married, right? Different families. But it's the same process. When I watched this wedding, this was different. It just felt like it was a celebration that we were all a part of.
Yeah.
And it was cool. It was hip. And we followed all the traditions. You did the chuppah. You did everything. but it was a breath of fresh air.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So I had a great week. My past couple of weeks have been fantastic. It's been amazing. I'm loving the success of the story that you're telling me because I've seen that more and more again. But yeah, to me, it was all about celebrations. And I'm loving that we're celebrating the launch of this podcast. And it just feels really, really great. And, you know, I'm getting such amazing feedback from people, loving every second of it, the authenticity of it, the transparency of it, and the fact that we can be a little bit educational in the things that we know well. And yeah.
Yeah, me too. I agree. I think that the podcast is, in a sense, you know, something that we wanted to do, you know, to really help the brand of Prime Source, really expand, you know, in what we're doing and, you know, get the word out there. But more importantly than the brand is just that connection with people. And even if there's one or two things that we say in the podcast that helps one or two people, I think that in itself is very much worthwhile.
I agree.
That really takes us over the top and it makes me feel good. So I'm loving it. I think it's been great so far.
First of all, welcome.
Thank you.
Yissy Cherns, a.k.a. the man Cherns. And, you know, it's such an honor and a pleasure for you to be here with us on this podcast. I have to mention that Prime Source is a sponsor because we have sponsors that keep us afloat and, you know, pay for all these beautiful pieces of equipment and the things that we have. So thank you, Prime Source, for helping sponsor and looking forward to continued growth. And, you know, we just are jumping right into it.
So, Yissy, let me ask you, did you even listen to our first podcast that we did?
I heard the beginning of the last podcast.
What do you think about it?
So I could tell you, I when I listened to it, there are a few things that stuck out. Number one is that, you know, there's a concept of good people have good things happen to them. Megalgal and schus al yedei zakai is the Hebrew part of it, the Hebrew words. And what I noticed is that you have crazy stories that happen to you. That story in the airport, like that's insane.
Yeah.
And
He was saying it like it was nothing. Like it was
right,
just
that's like a rant, but this is not the first one I've heard. But if you listen to the story, you forget the whole story, just that last piece that she's calling out Michael, and you're like, how do you know my name is Michael? And she wasn't even calling you, she's calling the angel Michael. These don't happen to regular people.
How many people would have gone over to this woman even to ask her?
That's what I'm saying. The guy who goes over to this person, that's what I'm saying. Megalgal and schus al yedei zakai. God looks at, you know, the person who looks to do good deeds and makes it a great story.
Right, things
Like,
find them.
And how do you know that God gave you a kiss at the end, that he loved what you did? Because she called out for Michael and she wasn't even referring to you. That's God's kiss. That's God telling you that I appreciate everything you did. You're taking care of my children. And it was beautiful to see. It doesn't happen to everybody. And the key is to appreciate these things in your life, that when it happens, that, you know, yeah, God's with me. Right? Could have been the whole thing. This would have been a great story, and leave out the whole Michael part. Just he helped the person. How do you know that God is like Sheping Nachas, that God is proud? We know God is proud because she calls out Michael, and she's not talking about him.
Right. That brings the whole story full circle.
So I just said what Michael brought to the podcast, but what Ushy brings to the podcast, and this is something that I believe I identified way before anybody, is that Ushy is a real talent. Ushy's his passion and how he gets into things shine through. I identified this years ago. Ushy was a counselor in a regular camp, and I told Ushy that you're wasting your time just being a regular counselor. You could do a lot more. You should be a head counselor. And I moved him over to a camp that I
Remember that? Oh my God.
But that was, again, this is something that was when you were young, it shines through in your podcast.
I was 16 years old when
You looked like he
became-
was 40.
Did you own the
I
camp?
had a beard.
I did own the camp. Yeah.
What camp was that?
That was Camp Chevra. So I started, the background of that as I was working in another camp. I was a counselor. Probably the year before I got married, it was my third year there, second year or third year there. I got married and I moved to Israel. Day after Sheva Brachas, I got married the day after Pesach. A week later, I moved to Israel. Wow. No support, and now I have to make a living, right?
Wait, you didn't have anybody
No
from
support.
her side or your
No,
side?
my father-in-law is a Rosh Kollel. My father's a Rebbe, and this is, you want to go to Israel? You want to sit and learn? Gavaldik, we love it, but you're gonna have to figure this out.
What was your plan?
So my plan was to figure, I didn't really have a plan. My plan is I just wanted to go and learn, and I'm going to figure it out. So the first thing was I had wedding money. So I started to write checks, and by the summer, checks were bouncing because I didn't understand the whole concept.
Whoa, how much did you make on your wedding?
I want to say about $9,000.
That's good. But you beat me by 2K, by the way.
Did I?
Yeah. I used my 7,000 to be your neighbor in Israel.
That's right. We were neighbors. But checks
I
were
made
back.
$3,000.
But this is,
Should I feel bad about
You
that?
should cry.
Yeah, $3,000. Wow. But So I went to Israel, and again, I had to figure out a plan. And my wife we got very lucky. There was a seminary that was just opening or just opened, and I think they just opened. That was their first year. And the head of the seminary knew my father-in-law, and they called my wife. They felt that she could be a powerhouse, and they paid her to go back for the summer and recruit. And so they paid our tickets, and we went back, and that was our first summer married, and we still went back to the old camp where I was before. After that summer, I realized, okay, I can't rely on this. I need more money, and I wasn't making a lot there. I was making, I want to say about $3,500, $4,000, something like that. And I figured a number that I need is $5,000. That's what I need to make from the summer. So I went to him and I said, look, I have an idea. You don't have a division. Your last grade is going into 9th grade. I'm going to open up a separate division going to 10th grade. And just pay me $5,000. I'm going to do everything, bring all the kids.
So you offered him a chance to do it together with you.
Correct. Well, it wouldn't be a different camp. It would be part of his camp.
You're using his infrastructure and you're
Everything.
growing the
Correct.
business.
I would grow one more age, and if I don't do it, don't pay me. I understand.
I didn't know this part.
Yeah, so now I'm telling this is the history. And he said, no, I can't pay I don't pay anybody $5,000. You're going to get the same. It went, and 35 was after tips. It wasn't even like, it was like maybe $1,000 salary or $2,000 and then the tips. So I said, I need $5,000 guaranteed, but based on my production of this older division. He said, no. I said, okay, then I'm going to have to do it without you. So Mendy got put together lists because he was the only one who was in Muncie. We were in Israel, and he got us lists. And every night, this guy Hafi would come to my house, and we would sit. Again, we're on Israel time, so we have to catch people 5 o'clock American time to reach them, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and we just pound the phones.
And you would call family.
We had the list of the people coming out of 7th grade. We did 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th.
You had a pitch?
We had a pitch. We had a just exclusive. You know who we are. We've been your kids' counselors. We were the older counselors. We're going, and just no younger kids running around, catered for older kids.
Wow.
And the real chop I had, I remember I went to Nosson Tzvi Finkel, and because I know I'd have to leave this man early, and I wanted to get his blessing, on the whole thing. And my pitch to him was, I said that, I want to create something where there's also a strong learning program. And my idea was I created it as a non-for-profit, and I raised money to pay for chavrusas in the morning. So the first, let's say learning groups are 2 hours, they'd have an hour of chavrusas where I paid people, Bachram, to learn with these younger guys.
Smart.
And then the next hour was shir. And that's what we did. And we got 60 kids the first year.
Wow, that's a good amount.
And we did okay. We made some, again, it wasn't big money, but it was enough for what I needed. I needed to make $5,000 and then I didn't need big money. I just needed that little bridge to get me to whatever my next
Did you
hustle
find an
was.
investor? What did you do?
No investor. I didn't need a major investment. We did it on the fly.
You get money from the applications before the summer.
we used money as
You
and
use
again,
some of that.
Correct. And then we maybe credit cards a little bit.
I feel like that was your launch to your entire business model that you have, because I have to tell you, I've been following you, Yissy,
For how long?
I've been following you since I met you. When we were
Since the
kids.
camera. Since the
Since the camera. We used to live across the street from one another, and my camera had 30 times zoom lens. So when we would talk on the phone, I'd say, "Hey, what are you up to?" He goes, "Look at my window," and I would.
It's not exactly like that. He would tell me,
Anyway.
look your window.
And I have to tell you, I've seen you at a lot of trade shows in the past few years, and I would say over the past decade, I've been following you in terms of your entrepreneurship, your successes, some of your failures, your roller coaster of a ride. And I have to tell you that there's a common theme between all of it is that you take the bull by the horns, you see the need that has to happen, and you just go for it. And whether you need an investor, whether you don't need an investor, whether you're going to raise the money, whether you're going to put the money yourself, I'd like to learn about that experience of yours. I mean, you got into the healthcare market 5 years ago.
I want to say it's a little bit longer. I started out as an investor. There was a company that needed capital, Metalite, and I funded them. They eventually took me out when they grew. But that was my first. I never done anything in healthcare till then. I had invested in real estate. I was in property preservation, which is foreclosures for banks, and we did very, very well. Had a lot of cash flow. I got into that with the money I used when I sold my camp.
You were partners with Mendy, right?
Mendy.
Klein?
I wasn't partners with Mendy Klein. Mendy Klein was one of the people who fed me business.
Oh,
So the way that happened was when I moved back from Israel, I was working for Gateways. Backing up even
what
further.
a history. I forgot about Gabe.
So Gateways is a cure organization. So I went there and I got a job
That was your first real job by Gateways.
correct $90,000, And when I came in, I said, I have a camp. So in the summer, he says, oh, no problem. It's summer slower. You could do your camp still. And that was my first real job. But he didn't really put me in the Kirov part a little bit. I was teaching in the Russian division, going on some trips with them, but I was mainly in the fundraising division. I built his shidduch division. I hired 10 shadchanim. Freddie Friedman worked for me. Not me, my wife trained him, but she was like running the shadchanim, and I was running the entire division, the fundraising of it, the events.
How many shidduchim do you think you've made?
No, I know what we've made. I think my wife has made, she just made on Friday her 255th.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah. I did not see that coming. She's like the matchmaker of love, is what she is.
I don't know what that means, but
Well, what that means is that she's hooking people up.
yeah, I guess so.
Yeah,
That's
for
amazing.
Bashar.
I guess so.
Yeah, yeah.
That's really nice.
That's pretty fascinating. What's the most money you guys ever made for a shidduch?
So we haven't done very well with this. I'll be honest. There are people who make 25, 50 grand a pop.
Wow,
Yeah.
50,000.
The male shadchanim do, because this is their business and they demand it.
Isn't this your wife's business?
It is, but fortunately and unfortunately, she doesn't rely on
Right.
it for this. So
That ain't
it's just her extra.
I see. So it's
So she doesn't look. I can tell you like this. She definitely appreciates when someone gives her money, and she feels like she works very hard.
Doesn't your wife charge up front?
No, she charges to meet because that takes time from research. She has to go now. She charges. You're taking my time. Happens to you. So let me back up. She's a therapist, and she gets paid $200 an hour for her time as a therapist. She does a lot of dating coaching. Now she's taking an hour to meet with somebody, so she charges them $150, which is less than her therapy
sounds-
amount.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because giving that time.
Yeah.
It doesn't guarantee anything, and some people think it's like it should guarantee, but it doesn't. But she doesn't have any set fee, so people have given her $1,000. The most she got was somebody who gave her $18,000
Nice.
one time. And the most, and then she's gotten fives, I think a couple of tens, but I would say most are between 2,500 and 5,000.
She always got something.
Pretty much. I mean, one guy gave us a picture frame with a picture of him in it.
That's very facetious of him.
Right? Yeah.
Wow. I mean, look, we got off on the shidduch world because that's so much of your history of your success and your cure of stuff that you did. And we didn't even get to the music yet. I want to get to so much.
Do you want me to take you through what just the history? Because the way it started was with preservation. I was telling you how I got into
Yeah,
it.
I actually want to know my specific question to you, and it's I think that the listeners will resonate with this. Is people want to know in general, like when did you realize that you were financially successful?
I still don't realize that.
At what point, I'm saying, did you say, okay, now I'm comfortable? Like this is the world I want to live in. This is the was it the restoration?
So I'll tell
preservation,
you.
I
I'll
mean?
tell you. I look in the mirror sometimes and I'm like, this doesn't feel real, right? This doesn't feel real. I grew up poor. I'm a poor boy. Like I was the oldest in my family, and I had hand-me-down underwear, right? Like I thought Donnie Bennell was a name brand. I like the Eddie Lauer edition. I'd got a camp with like my one T-shirt that said, Ushy Schwartz in it. So
Yeah.
to me, I look in a mirror sometimes like this is not real. Like when does it stop? When does it shut off?
Right.
I've also gone like, I built a very big business that did very, very well. A lot of cash going. It did very well, and then that whole industry fell apart.
That's the restoration.
Restoration. So I got to restoration. I'll go quick. I was in Gateways. I realized that Orange and Rockland and Verizon aren't taking Chesed and Block Gamar for payment. I got to do something. I got to build a career. Mendy Klein said, "Why don't you open up a truck?"
Con Edison for those that are.
Or Con Ed. I don't know
Yeah,
whoever's
yeah.
listening. The line is better when you say Con Ed.
Yeah.
So I just sold camp, and the down payment of that, so he gave me I got a lump sum, and the reason I sold camp was that he was doing all the work, and I was like, and he said it's got to be one or the other, and I realized I thought to myself, I could have bought him out. I thought to myself like I'm a little bit already at this point embarrassed to tell people I'm involved with a camp, so let me go the other way and just get the payout. And I had that money, and I opened up a business. Now Ben D. Klein said, "Why don't you open up a truck?" I had like a 50 grand lump sum payment. So that would give me tools and a truck and a little bit extra, whatever. So there was a guy who was living in my house. There's a guy who came from England to my house. His father was a multi-millionaire.
I remember him.
And he came to a learn-earn program. It didn't work out. He would sleep all day, but he was a handy guy. So I said, let's go into business 50-50. You'll do, I'll get the contracts. I'll do the sales. I also had a full-time job. I couldn't like run around on the road. And you'll do the actual work. And he said, great, nothing else. We bought the truck. I bought the equipment. We started the work. But a month in, the same problems he had in yeshiva he had there, like the same sleep, it just wasn't going. I figured I'll call his father. Maybe he'll recoup me. His father said, I didn't tell you to invest with him. It's your problem. So I found the guy who was leaving Kyle who needed a job, was a handy guy. He did the work. I found the girl who was at night to do like the back end. It was running. It wasn't really, it was making $1,000 a month profit. It wasn't really a business. I met a guy who came in and said I could build this up, and he actually did. And then we brought in an investor, and it ended up being a very, very, very big business, and it was huge.
What was the key to all that, by the way? It sounds like the transition was bringing in the right type of help.
Yes, but even that, the first guy I brought in, it was much more smoke and mirrors. It was enough to get my investor, but really he wasn't the right guy.
Right.
It was after that we really built an operation. We had someone who ran the operation, and it was a girl. She was very good, and she just was organized. And on top of it, she understood numbers. She understood the metrics of things. She understood that, are we making, it's very nice to keep doing jobs, but if you have to know if you're making money on the jobs. And she could understand it.
Did you go to school for any of this?
I have nothing. I had nothing to do with operations ever. I was
In general, I'm asking you, did you go to
No,
school
I didn't go to school for any of this thing.
Right.
No.
So this is all natural talents and your entrepreneurship type of skill that pushed you to something that you...
It's funny. I always think to myself, like, and again, because I think, I have the poor man mentality that I think, this could all stop in a second. What would I do? I don't feel personally I have a bankable skill. What do I do if not? I'm going to do karate and sing and play keyboard.
You continue to hustle it out.
No,
like
I
you've been
understand.
doing
No,
till now.
I understand, but what I'm saying, but a lot of people have they went to school, right? They're an accountant. Worst case, they become an accountant. You're a lawyer. Worst case, you become a lawyer.
No, I think that your skill is connecting the dots.
Oh, managing people. So again, yes.
Your
but it's a-
networking ability is beyond.
But it's a very hard thing to, like, if I walk into your office, I needed a job, right? So, okay, so what do you do? So
No. You're not hireable.
That's what I'm saying.
You're the guy that puts it all
that's
together.
that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. So that's great if you have if you have a business, but if you have to start over, if you have to get a job, it's scary.
So what made you get into ALF market, the assisted living?
Oh, so backing up. So I built this very, very big business. I was investing. I had a lot of cash. I was investing and investing. I was investing in multifamily mainly. I bought some businesses, including the first business was I put money into this healthcare business, and that's when I started to, they thought again maybe I could be helpful at the shows. I went there. I didn't even know I didn't even know what we do.
You went to trade shows?
I went in the beginning to like Zimit and
Sure.
I didn't even. I remember there's an operator who taught me my line. He says, what you do is you stop the rehospitalization of patients.
Nice.
Reduce the rehab.
Tell you what he said. Yeah,
That's a 3-second pitch. I like that.
and I didn't even know what we did till then. Just looked like it made money.
Well, let me, and you got into the business of healthcare through that. That was your...
Well, that was my first in, and I
Yeah.
would go to the shows, and again, I was a vendor. I was a vendor at the shows, and as you go on, so number one is I didn't like being on the vendor side of things. I just didn't like that whole. Everything is sales. Even when you're an owner, you're selling banks. There are things you're selling investors.
We say that all the time.
You're always selling something, but to me, it felt the vendor. I really feel bad. My heart goes out to them. They're trying. They're running over to you. I have the best answer because I'm really, I'm only involved in PropCo, so I can't really. I can make introductions, but I really can't do more for you anyway. So it helps me. Like at least I don't have to. I'm not the jerk who's saying no. I want to help everybody. I really do. I want to give every single guy I meet their business. But I'm not in control of that, and thank God. So it doesn't. But I just didn't want to be at that side. But again, I didn't even know how to get into this. I remember speaking to a guy. I said, I want to start buying. How do I get in? And he was pitching me that I should find deals and feed it to him, and then we'll do it together. And I looked at that for a little bit. By 2018, preservation was really dead. And I made a mistake that I had a huge office. We had 60 employees, a lot of From cost a lot more. And 30.
Was it worth it?
That's a whole different topic. That's worth it. Every From guy really wants to be the owner of your business. So that's a whole different. That's a whole different thing.
That's an interesting topic, by the way. It's,
Yeah.
Come back for another time.
That's another time for that.
Yeah,
We could get into that of my experiences in that. But bottom line is, I had a very big overhead, and I didn't scale back fast enough. Because I didn't forecast what's going on, and I had to start writing checks instead of pulling out the kind of money I was, which was big money. I'd actually start writing checks. And it's interesting with a person. I could have millions sitting in my bank account, but when you're not earning, you feel poor. And I was still okay at 18. I'm writing the checks, and like every time, like no money coming in, no checks, but I'm writing checks. By 19, we had it under control. That was even making a little bit of money, but it wasn't the cash cow that it was. By 20 already, I wanted to get out. My partner, who was really out of the business at that point, he was just the finance side. He didn't want to give up on the business. He said he'll take over running it. Then I went on to other things. End of 19, though, I Operator came to me with the deal, and I put in all the money. I put the money together. I put
Whoa,
everything.
slow down. Operator comes to you with a deal and just put in money. I mean, what does that mean? That's what you just entered is into the world that we want to talk about a lot. So one of the themes that we like to talk about on this None of Your Business podcast is sales in general. And it resonates with us tremendously. What you said a minute ago is that we're all in sales. We spoke about that on our first podcast, how doctors are in sales, right? They have to answer to the board. Everyone answers to somebody at the end of the day, and you always have to sell to someone. But another theme is the industry in general. How do you get into it? Like if somebody has money and they want to get into this industry, a lot of people always ask me, hey, I want to get into the industry. How do I my first actual response.
Have them call me. Have them call me.
Right. I'll call you. So how was that transition for you? Tell us about that.
Okay, so actually,
who were you selling?
oh great. So actually, this circle back to you. I had gone to ECAP my first time, and I'd gone as Med Elite. I bumped into a guy that was looking at a building, and he said that I'm an operator. I'm going to healthcare. I'm doing this thing. You want to get in? You're not an operator. Why don't you invest with me? And I have this deal. And I said, well, I'm talking to them about it. He goes, no, I'm direct with the sellers. I said, okay. And I gave him, I don't remember how much it was. I think it was 200,000, 250,000 to start. And in the end, we didn't end up doing that deal. It was a complicated deal. It didn't end up happening. But at that point, we had already been down that road. He was holding he didn't take the money. He had the money. He was holding it. Then it was available for our next deal. And he came to me a little bit later with another guy who had a deal in upstate New York. And this guy needed cash and said, could you, fund this deal? And again, I was sitting on a lot of cash. So I said, sure, I'll do it. And I took care of the financing. I signed on the mortgage.
Take us into that world for a second.
Sure.
When you're financing a deal, right? So it's an assisted living home or an
Assisted living.
Assisted living home. Assisted living home, works mechanically in terms of, staffing and care, food, housekeeping, all the supplies they need, right? Similar to a nursing home. Obviously, a nursing home is much more complicated in terms of clinical services that it needs and beyond and regulations and so on. But from the standpoint of money, what is the number one thing that you're giving money to? Let's just go through it for a second. What are you giving money for?
To buy the asset, which is the property
The real
operation. Yeah,
And-
both.
And so you're buying the asset, and then what else is the money needed for when you're buying a facility?
So every facility is different. So if you're looking for a deal, right? If you're paying an optimum price, you're paying an optimal price, a high end, the premium, you're probably getting a cash flowing asset, and it might not need money for operations, but you're paying somewhere, so you're going to pay on the purchase.
Right.
I've always tried to look for things that I'm not paying as much on the purchase and need to be fixed. Now, the risk of that is there's a clock. I budget in based on my operators or my underwriting. I look how much this will cost me to turn around, and now it's a race against the clock. I know now I have, let's say, $500,000 allocated toward turning around this operation, the cash flow, and it should take, let's say, 6 months, right? This will last me 6 months. I'm making up a number, but if it's in 3 months, I actually have money in my pocket. If it's 8 months, I have a problem.
Right.
I can't go back to my
And you're not the only one investing in these deals. You're also
Well, so
selling
in the
to others.
beginning, it was only
Right.
me. So until 22, really, it was all my stuff. Then I realized that it wasn't only healthcare. I'm in every asset class. I have 5,000 units multifamily. I have office buildings. I have over 1 million square feet of industrial. I got not retail centers, but actual retail, clothing.
What do you have in healthcare?
I have some skilled that I lease out. Assisted livings that I have operators, but now we have our own operation. So we have a couple buildings, and then behavioral health, inpatient, outpatient, and then I have a bunch of drug rehabs.
Nice. So in the beginning, you started investing yourself, and then you brought on other investors, which
Correct.
brings us back to our theme of selling, right? So you have to sell to investors.
Correct.
How's that process work for you?
So how does the process work? So again, there's pre-interest rates or pre-COVID, post-COVID. I mean, I never took anything pre-COVID, so I can't tell you how that was. But things have definitely changed. The climate has changed. Much harder today. With interest rates, much harder. Harder to get good deals, harder to find opportunities, harder to get investors.
And
People
good
are
for you that
scared.
you're leasing out nursing homes, because today, literally our environment, the news on a daily basis, state by state is getting hurt from reimbursement, from staffing cuts, from
True, but there are horror stories with that too, because if you have you lease out to the wrong operator, and now you could be stuck with the empty building.
Sure.
And I can tell you that firsthand.
right. You left with an empty building?
with the building that's no longer licensed.
What'd you do?
I had to pivot into something else.
Turn the building into something else?
Yes, I wanted to turn it into a drug rehab.
Okay.
Because the reimbursements are great. The oversight, it's the next big thing. All the big nursing home guys are looking, how do I get into drug rehabs? Because the reimbursements are great and you don't have all that oversight.
Are they
Yeah.
always reimbursed though? Is every state reimbursed? No, some are private.
There's different models. There's
Okay.
there's the Medicaid model, and then there's the insurance model, which is split into two different types. There's the in network and out of network, and there's different mileage and frustrations. There's some pros and cons of each one.
It's my understanding that Obama put in place that it's mandatory now, it's required of private insurances to offer with their insurance for someone that needs a detox. So it's not something that is optional. They have to offer.
Possible. But when I'm saying not everybody has Blue Cross Blue Shield, right? And let's say a guy, right? So you could take the Medicaid, people on Medicaid, right? There's
That's for
Fidelis-
sure they have it.
Right. So what I'm saying is that when you have, if you're model, you have to also understand that a Blue Cross Blue Shield patient, again, why would you do Medicaid? The reimbursements are less, right? But it's a lot easier to fill up.
More cash flow.
It's a lot easier to fill up.
Yeah.
So you have to look state by state what the reimbursement, if it makes sense. That's Medicaid. You want to take it to higher level. I'm not talking about the Malibu level of the movie stars who pay crazy.
$50,000 a
Not
week.
that. I'm talking about your regular person who's coming there. So if a person has regular insurance, right, a Blue Cross Blue Shield, for example. So there's in-network and out-of-network. In-network, they're going to negotiate a contract price, which is less than what you could bill out-of-network. The advantage is that usually you'll get, again, there's billable things that you're getting along the way, which you still have to fight for. So you're not going to get 100% of what you bill just because they're going to say, well, this thing wasn't eligible or that. But at least you're getting paid. You have a contract. And they're going to send people to you. Not as much as Medicaid will send, but they will. You are a referral source. They don't want to be paying out of network with somebody else because that could be whatever they charge. Out of network is much more lucrative technically, but it's a wild card. You don't know what you're getting. You don't know if you are getting. They could fight you, and that's the first people they will fight. So those are the challenges of that. So a lot of people are trying to get it. It's not as regulated. A lot of people are trying to get it. So originally,
By the way, why do you think it is that drug addiction centers is a very big growing industry? 30 years ago, there was a drug rehab, maybe 2-3 per state. Now there's one every other block in every single, and it's
But
growing
like
like
Yissy
crazy.
said,
The
reimbursement
need
is there.
has increased
reimbursements
tremendously.
are you can't. I mean, it could be $650 a day. You can't compare it to this is like Medicare on steroids.
Right.
So it's a different game, and your quality of care that you have to, a nursing home is really a hospital. You're getting a certain quality of care. Drug rehab's not like that.
We call nursing homes mini hospitals.
They're sitting in classes.
Right. So drug rehabs, you're getting reimbursed more. Your expenses are less, and you wonder why it's a growing business. The question that you were saying earlier is did the need grow? I'm not sure if the need.
That's
Well,
what-
listen, there's
that's-
no, it definitely did. Look, the opioid. There are drugs out today that are made. Used to be you have to have a plant and a cocaine and whatever and heroin. Today they can make it in labs, and it's much more stronger, much more addictive. The whole opioid thing.
Right.
So it's much more and it's in everything. Fentanyl, it's in everything.
So the addiction is more now.
Way
you're
more.
saying, right.
And it's very hard. A lot of them are repeat. And say most of your staff are the ones who succeeded if they don't.
How are you
relapse.
getting patients in drug rehabs?
So again, if you're a Medicaid facility,
I'm not talking about the easy ones. I'm talking about the difficult ones.
So most are in network, and Blue Cross, they're sending you
So
people.
they're coming to you.
But a lot of it is, and where you're spending your real money is Google, SEO searches.
How are you spending your money? How are you figuring out how to maximize your SEO?
So full disclosure, I don't operate anything, and I'm very, very little involved. I just know superficially, globally, on a high level, what we're doing.
Right.
I'm not the right guy, and I could,
That's
you want
fine.
my operator who could tell you the details of it.
Yeah, we'll get him on one of our roundtable discussions.
Yes,
that we
I'm
have.
not the person for that, but I know that we spend, and that's a big
Got
part
it,
of our
got it.
budget.
You see it in your budget line.
When,
Right.
in other words, I have now a building I bought was a huge assisted living to the point that we could have different wings. Because again, a insurance-based person doesn't want to be with a Medicaid person, right? The Medicaid person, that's a low, so different wings for different things, and we're doing just for more reimbursement, sources to have, and it's it's from scratch. We bought a building that was an old assisted living. It's a big building, and we're converting to a drug rehab, and so I see the budget, the product. There's a big budget for marketing, and the marketing doesn't mean the boots on the ground marketing. It means pay per click, SEO, all that type of stuff. So when I had this building that the state took away because, and I don't want to say who because I don't want to get into just the operators and whatever. I don't want to badmouth anybody, but he lost it to the state, and it was a call from one day to the next. By the way, the state came in and they're kicking me out, and then I have to negotiate with the state. I have a mortgage to pay. What's going on here? And there's a receiver now, and you're the last guy on their list that's getting paid. And then you get the call that we're not even letting you continue. Like, I thought I could get somebody else, different operator. We're delicensing the beds. Now what do you do? Wow. So my first thought was a drug rehab. So take something that was okay and make it even better. It'll cost money, but drug rehab is complicated because not every neighborhood. Yeah, it was zoned for healthcare, but because it was residential, you could have an assisted living or a nursing home there, right? Residents don't, but a drug rehab, that nobody wants that. So it has to be zoned for that. So that wasn't an option. So we ended up pivoting and making an assisted living, which happened to be in that state was okay, but it wasn't as lucrative as a nursing home or what a drug rehab would have been. So even when you say PropGo being a great model, which overall in a way it is, I'm not busy with the operation and I don't have to, I'm not sweating payroll with that, but there are its own challenges. You have to make sure you have a good operator.
Right, but you are busy with the finance part of it in terms of the initial introduction, the investment.
That's for sure. But even today, even on operations, I built my own operations on the assisted living side that we have our own facilities.
Are your relationships with banks?
I have relationships with banks, yeah.
So
with
banks are your vendors, would you say?
I would say that if a vendor has to kiss up to us, we have to kiss up to the banks in a way, because banks want to finance us. But yes, at certain times, it's a give and take. Investors is probably your biggest kiss up to.
Right. Wow. Yeah, we do have a few minutes left. Sure. Time flies when you're having fun, they say. And we're having a good time. We're getting to know you. We're the idea of the podcast in general, this is, we're learning as we're growing in this world of podcasting. We've heard a lot about, your history and, things that we spoke about in sales, marketing, operations, drug rehabs, which was amazing. I do want to get a little bit more of a personal. We have something that we call a pick your questions type of thing to get to know you a little bit better and, keep it light. But
before the lightning round, I do want to circle back to something. I heard you say something before, and it struck me. It really made an impression on me, and I want to talk about it. You said, which I did not know, that you actually offered this camp, we're not going to name them, when you came up with this idea of wanting to open a new segment for older kids. You told this person that you're willing to do it with them. You didn't just ship and start your own thing. You actually offered him to do it together. All you asked for was to make that $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 salary is what you were asking.
$5,000 to be exact.
Now, let's fast forward 10 years later from when you started, or 15 years, whatever it was. This individual gave up on that because he didn't have the foresight to see what could be. He looked at the moment and said, look, I don't pay people this kind of money. $5,000 is too much. And it's a scary thought because how many people are out there in the world that have opportunities and they just can't see beyond what they're seeing at the moment, and they're passing up on what can potentially develop to become these massive opportunities. A lot of people have a hard time because this is my business, it's my company. I feel that more companies should look at this, and it's a sickness, it's a disease that goes on. There's a lot of people that don't do this. They feel like they're very protective over their company.
Well, and that's happening, by the way, in our industry. Look at the healthcare industry.
Every administrator eventually goes on their own at a certain point.
Why?
Because they don't get any profit sharing in the business. Everybody has that time where one of their employees, who's actually very capable and can do a lot bigger and better things, it's avoidable, it's preventable that they would leave and start their own business.
That's why they lose their stars, because they look at the Medicare patients they're bringing in. They look at the
they're doing all the hard work.
And they also don't see they also don't see the struggles or the expense side of things. They only see
they don't see the negative.
Correct. Right. And because
they
of that,
they the stress of making payroll.
Correct. Or the stress of a bank calling and everything.
Cash call.
And because of that, they always deposit and they come to their owner or their whatever, and they'll say that, look, I need some kind of profit share equity, and the guy says no. And they move on. And yes, they'll get the struggles, but they also, if they're good, they'll succeed. They'll have.
There are also, unfortunately, failures that happen in this world.
Correct.
It's very scary. So what would you recommend? An administrator that wants to go out on his own, what would you recommend to do? A guy is coming to you and he's saying, this is not for me. I'm not.
No, paint the picture a little bit differently. Let's paint this picture.
Why don't you paint the picture?
Yeah, let's paint this picture. Okay, Yissy. And I want to see what your take on this is. You have one facility. You have, let's say, 50 facilities. One particular facility, there's an administrator there. And this guy, girl, whoever it is a rock star. They're doing the marketing amazing to the local hospitals, and they're getting all the discharges. They're running the building efficiently. They have the staff perfectly aligned.
Great QMX, no
This
tags,
person
great.
he's unbelievable, and you're paying them $250,000, $350,000. You're paying them a nice amount. You feel like it's a fair deal, but you're bringing in money in this building, like you're bringing 10 times that amount. You're making $3 million from this building, okay? And this person comes to you, and this person says, Yissy, look, I know I'm doing a good job here. I see what's going on. I don't know exactly everything, but I know enough to know that this is turning out for you a good profit. Yissy, I want to get more involved. Otherwise, I feel like I'm going to have to move on. I'm going to go somewhere else. And this is something that happens all the time, all the time. What is your response to this person initially? And when you think it through, how do you think you would deal with something like this?
So good. So what you're asking the wrong guy with this, because I believe in this concept of sharing. I'll tell everybody especially comes in on a high level, that not only are you going to be part of the business that you came into, I'm going to give you shares in. Guy comes in who's a rock star in drug rehabs. I'm going to give you share in my industrial, which has nothing to do with you, and you're going to grow your portfolio across everything. So I'm not the right guy really to ask that, but
Wow, that's
I'm gonna,
very generous.
But let me take it back, because I'm going to try to look from the other side. Why would someone say no? What are the challenges?
And people say no all the time.
So I would imagine the challenges. I'm not talking about the guy who's greedy and who just says, this is your place and you're replaceable and I'll get another guy.
Look at the next
tomorrow.
guy.
I'm not talking about that guy, because that guy, again, so that's what's going to happen. He's going to leave and this guy's going to go on his own. And I just had a guy recently, I saw, not my thing, he asked me advice and he ended up leaving and going on his own. So there are people like that. Let's say that this operator is not seeing my big picture. And what he sees in this facility, that this one is killing it, I have another 5 that are draining my entire cash flow. And he's not asking me to just be a partner in that, which is the profits and the losses. He's asking to be
Just in this building.
He wants to now become an owner, which any excess cash that I was making, that I was using just to survive everywhere, and now I'm going to have to take that. So let's say that's the thing. So that's a much bigger challenge, right? Because otherwise it's very easy, right? If everything's doing well and he asks it 100%, I don't want to lose a good talent. And not only that, not only am I going to say that I'm bringing you in on this one and the other healthcare, I'm going to tell them you're going to have a small piece of industrial, multifamily. I'm going to bring you on every deal. You're going to get real wealth just because you're taking this headache off my head, right? I'm not talking about, that's what I would do, but I'm talking about where there's a different challenge. And not the greedy guy, where the challenge is that I really can't do it, right? Because if I give him more money, which is what he wants, right? He wants ownership here, which to pull out this,
Which I think he deserves.
this building makes $100,000 profit a month, and he wants 25% of it to pull out 25 grand. And that 25 grand is how I'm paying my bills in the other places, right? Let's say it's a real challenge. So what I would do then is say, look, today you're going to be an owner, no problem. But I want you to understand what's going on here, right? You're an owner. I'm going to give you this.
You take the good with the bad.
But no, I won't even make him do it because I want him to understand that. But but I can't do it yet. I'm going to show him. This is what's going on now. I need you. I want to get you more involved. What you've done here, I want to get you involved in these other ones that are struggling.
You spread his talent.
I'll spread his talent, and I'm going to retro pay you. I can't pay you now. I'm going to retro pay you later on for everything.
Based on the growth.
Let me tell you, I have a drug rehab. One of my drug rehabs that I have, I bought it, and I structured a great deal, and I bought it, but right away, the guy who had it before me had it as it was a private pay, but like he took in everybody and he just wanted to help people, which is beautiful. Kumbaya, they would sing and do this.
He forgot that it's a business.
But there was no pay the rent, don't pay the rent. And right away I brought in a consultant and he says, you're going to have to switch to insurance.
Hey, Michael, a consultant.
I like that.
Michael
I'm
always
a
said,
big advocate.
bring in a consultant.
You have to bring the right consultant because I can tell you horror stories with that too.
course,
But it should be based on deliverables,
Don't
not
be
based on...
afraid, though, to ask for help.
No, for
Bring them to
sure.
help. Yeah.
But you got to be very careful. And there's certain words you hear, like if a guy says just pay me every month, and I had guys that are paying every month, and like they just wake up by the check to tell me why it hasn't happened yet. So you have to get the right guy also. But yes, I'm a huge proponent of paying consultant, especially when it's based on a deliverable. So tell me what you want for this deliverable. You're going to get me to Z. What's the price to Z? And you do your own calculations. $100,000. If it takes 6 months in your mind, if it takes 3 months, you made a killing. And if it takes 9 months, you lost money. But that's your problem. To me, that works a lot better because I know that you're not just coming for the check every month, whether you did or not. And I brought in, and he said you have to switch to insurance-based model, which we did. And I had 60 people in the building. He says, now you got to get rid of everybody. I said, why? Because you can't have a product The one guy, the insurance guy's paying $500 a night, and this guy's paying $50. Doesn't work.
The case mix was no good.
Correct. You have to get rid of it. So now I was starting from scratch, and I was putting in money, and I had to write checks, and it was painful, things I didn't anticipate. And he put in an administrator. Eventually, we realized that we don't need him as a consultant. He got us to where we had to get to. And it's a 100-bed facility, technically. But if you want to really operate, it's a 68-bed, let's say 70 beds, something in that range to comfortably operate. And we'd have 13 residents, 15 residents, 7 residents. And I'd ask, when are we turning the corner? When, you know, and soon we're about to make money. And this is going on for months. And then every month I'm writing the check.
And your pen is working slower and
Right.
slower.
I meet this guy who was, he was in multifamily. He says, I've been studying drug rehabs and I want to get into this. And I said, okay, I don't have the time and that's not my personality to sit and oversee an operation. I said, I'm going to bring you in. The conversation was to bring him in to run the operation, to oversee it. Okay, now what do you want? So ultimately, he really wanted equity. That's what he wants. And no problem. If you make me money, what do I care? Now we talk salary because you have to live. I said, look, I'm done. You're not the first guy that's done this to me. I've put other guys in, and had this person, that person, I'm done just throwing out money. So this is what I'm willing to do. I'll pay for the expenses of the flights. That's it. You're not getting a penny. You're going to go there. And when we hit this point, you start to make $1,000 a week. At this point, $2,000 a week. And then at a certain point, you're going to get 5%. You get management, 5%. And then at a certain point, you hit a certain metric, I'll pay you back retroactively $2,000 a week up to the point that you hit the management plateau. That part. Where the management started,
Sure.
Where that metric started, up till there, I'll retro pay you. He came in a month in. Now, I had to sell him also to the...
And he took it. He accepted
He
it.
accepted it.
What about partnership? Was there a goal for
Yeah,
that?
so I said once I'm in for $1.5 million. When I get that plus 20% of my money, it kicks in. I think it was 15, 20% the partnership. I have to look exactly what the doctor says. There's an upside. So there's an eventual upside, and then not only that, we'll do other facilities together. Again, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. But if you succeed, the world's your oyster.
You gave him an opportunity.
He goes there, and I had to sell him to the person who was running it that day. I said I brought him in just to give him eyes and ears. I think I even said he invested so she wouldn't resent who's this person. A month in, they're clashing. Disaster. He says she's the whole reason you're not making money. She's the obstacle. And she says the staff's about to walk out. They hate this guy. It's me or her. We can't survive. Now I don't know what to do. I have a choice to make. I have a mortgage. Everything's in my name, personally guaranteed. There's no investors, so at least that part there wasn't. There was, I've been pumping in money every month. What do? You have the person who's been in this business for years, who every month says you're about to make money. This guy who says he knows what needs to be done.
Who's not proven yet.
Not proven yet. But you could see talking to him. He's a real tichtiga guy. He's like, he had that.
You had a good feeling about him.
Yeah. But again, he's never done this before. He studied for from talking from the beginning, you see he understood reimbursements, he understood things. He definitely studied the sugya well, but he's never done this. What do you do? Right?
Wow.
You must have slept very well that night.
What do you do?
How long has this woman been with you for? I'm just curious.
Probably, I want to say she was there. The consultant brought her maybe 9 months, a year.
So for around a year, she's been promising.
No, so again, there was a point that was clearly a turnaround
Sure.
for it, but now we were.
And she's going to walk?
They're not.
And she's taking staff with her?
No, she says staff hate him.
Oh, staff in it. But she's going to walk for sure.
For sure.
Right. So it's either him or her.
Correct.
New consultant or old consultant?
And if you pick him, the staff are leaving with me.
No.
She didn't
no.
say that. She said the
They're gonna
staff
be
hates
upset.
him, and they're going to walk. And they're going to walk
Figure
out.
that part out.
Well, I called him first. So
Sure.
again, I said, the staff, are they happy? The staff are very happy. I'm telling you. And I told her, I told him that, I have a dilemma here.
Sure. You were open with him about it.
Yeah, because he's someone he's not even getting
course.
paid. I felt at least I owed him that. He's been going for a month or it was 2 months. It was a short time, but he's been going every week down there, and it's a short time. And I felt at
Oh my
least,
God, I'm like antsy to hear.
at least
what-
I owed him this.
Right. What's the end result? Right? And did you make
What do
money?
you do? Right. So
Okay.
the first question. So the staff could walk. The staff, no, it's not true. Let me ask you a question. If she walks, do you have her? I have someone lined up now. Okay, so now he just even did a little bit that I'm not stuck with a guy who's not even licensed to operate. Someone for clinically who could do it, right? That's where we're at now, right? So I have a choice to make. Do I side with her, who's professional, who's been in this industry? She was a clinical director before. Now she's the executive director of the facility, right? Who knows the business well, who was referred to by the consultant. Or to have this guy who came out of Lakewood, he's from Lakewood, lives there, who was in multifamily, who had a passion for drug rehabs, who says, I got this under control.
Who figured out the formula?
What do you do?
Wow. All
What
right.
would you do?
You know what?
Oh,
Stay tuned for next exciting episode.
No, right now.
What
do you
color
do?
will break out.
What do you
What
do?
would you do?
I think I would have to go with more of the sure thing.
Who's the sure?
I've taken enough risk, it sounds like. I've pumped money into this building, and I got to really mitigate my risk.
Who's the sure thing?
The
It
woman
sounds
that's
like
running
this. Yeah, it sounds like I got to give her a little bit more time.
Give her a little more time.
I got to give her a little bit more time and tell him to stay put. Keep him, I guess, on the radar, just in the background.
He wouldn't be involved in the city. He wouldn't leave probably because he only had upside, but he wouldn't be able to show up any there. She said, like,
No, he can't be there.
He can't have any input.
He can't be there. He can't be there.
So I'll tell you what I did. I said, look, I've been promised for the last 6 months that this month we're making money. We haven't. It can't get any worse. I'm at my end. I'm at the point to give back the keys to the bank. I can't keep doing this. So what do I lose? I may as well take the gamble. And I backed him. And she left. 3 months later, we were cash flow positive, and today we're making over 100 grand a month. We're full.
I think the beauty in the story and what you're doing is that the common theme with you, Yissy, and we're going to end with this because we're out of time, is that you love helping people. And in general, if you can make a living out of helping people, that's where you ended up. You started off in your life where you were helping people, and you went into the Kirov world. And you're ending off with your career now and building this infrastructure of yours with helping people. At the end of the day, drug rehab and skilled nursing and assisted living facilities is all helping people. And we're in a world where we want, us, Ushy and I, and one of the reasons why we love this podcast so much and being in the world of healthcare is because we're in the world of helping people. And we want to make sure that we're protected when we get older. And we want to make sure that our parents and grandparents and everyone's uncles and aunts and siblings are protected. And we want to promote positivity in the world of healthcare, and that there are good people doing good things that are making difficult decisions and investing time, money, and energy for good outcomes. And kudos to you for that. And it's amazing. It was a pleasure having you with us.
Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate it. Before we let you go, though, something that we like to end off our podcast with is, who do you recommend? Someone in the healthcare space, someone, entrepreneurship type, someone that has a story to tell, someone that we can converse with like we did today and learn from each other and educate, and that we can get on the podcast. Who would you recommend? Who would be that person?
Don't recommend somebody loosely. Somebody you really think would be an interesting guest, can carry a conversation, and who's relevant in our industry.
So I think I have somebody, and again, now that I've been on this podcast, and I think I have an idea what you're looking for.
Okay.
I think I have someone in mind. I can actually even call him, see if he's available, he's been through different sides of the industry, the ups and downs of it. He's been there for a long time. He could tell you from different angles and different perspectives. There's a guy named Yissy Cherns,
Oh, we know Zish.
and I can even
Zach,
call him.
AKA
Let me
Zach.
call him.
I'm
right
gonna
now.
call him right now.
Zish. Hi, Yissy Cherns. You're on speaker. I'm sitting here in a podcast with the None of Your Business boys, right? Michael Greenfield and Ushy Schwartz. I was just on it. I had a phenomenal time. I really think you should do this. I recommended you. They just asked who I would recommend. Okay, so this is a podcast where they're gonna really get into your kishkas. They're gonna want to know your story. What made you you? I said that, look, Zish is somebody who's built businesses. He's seen the ups, the downs. He knows the industry from every side. I think he'd be the perfect guest. I think you'd love it.
Say yes.
I'm so excited. Any way I can serve, I'm here.
Is that a yes?
Absolutely.
Amazing,
All right. Okay.
amazing.
Wow.
Their people will call your people.
We'll be in touch.
Take care.
Wow. Okay. Thank you, Zish. Wow. Yes.
Thank
By
you.
the way, Michael, there's one more thing we forgot to do. And I think this is very important because this is cute and it's fun. And
Oh, the lightning round.
the lightning round. It's 11 questions, but you got to answer them on the spot. We're putting a shot clock on. Okay. You get 30 seconds to get through the 11 questions.
Okay, go ahead.
You get one pass. One question that you're allowed to say pass where you don't want to answer the
Well,
question.
you could actually say none of your
You
business.
say none of your business. Ready? Here we go. And the shot clock is on. We got 60 seconds. Okay, here we go. What's the fastest you ever drove a car?
110 miles an hour.
Is there any person, alive or dead, that you would want to have lunch with?
You too.
If you were stranded on a deserted island with only one item of food, which item would that
Pizza.
be? Great question. Me too. Me too. Who is your emergency contact?
My wife.
On average, how many hours do you sleep at night?
4.
Wow.
What's your biggest fear or phobia?
Heights.
What's the most you ever gave to charity in one shot?
250.
What's your highest level of education?
BTL.
Wow, BTL. What's the most amount of money you spent on yourself or a loved one?
I bought watches for over 100 grand, so I guess that.
Okay. If you could have one talent other than singing, because you already have that, another talent, what would it be?
Saxophone.
Wow, playing the saxophone. Okay. Pick your favorite superhero.
Superman.
Superman. Wow. That was an interesting lightning round. I can't wait for more and doing that in our future. Guys, this was such an amazing podcast because there were so many takeaways. You know, just the idea of going to a professional to get help and just starting off your day thinking about others and making a match and, you know, thinking about who can I connect with one another and, you know, the combination between business and sports and so much about how valuable our time is and the rich history that people share together when they care about each other and grow their friendship. Guys, don't forget to like and subscribe and follow us and check us out next time. See you.